Now, I said earlier that if I have one piece of physical evidence, that's good, but two would be better. Is that correct? Right? Well, on this map, these are the Hawaiian Islands right here. This is the equator of the Earth. North of the equator, on the floor of the North Pacific Ocean here, there are 20,000 volcanoes. All those little points that you see right here, there's 20,000 volcanoes just on the floor of the Northern Pacific right here. And of course, the Hawaiian Islands are just volcanoes that stick out of the water. However, if you go here south of Hawaii, right in this area, you would actually see close up that there's a flat-topped underwater seamount there. It's not pointy, it's not cone-shaped. It's actually flat-topped. It's called a guyot. Guyos are not volcanic cones. They are flat-topped underwater seamounts. Their flat tops are about 5,000 feet below sea level. What is so important about them is that along their top edges we find sandy beaches. Below the sandy beaches, around the edge of the guyos, are dead coral reefs. Well, the only logical conclusion is these were islands before the flood of Noah. So from creation to the flood of Noah for 1,656 years, these were islands with active beaches on the top, active coral growing around the side. Understand that there are corals that do grow in total darkness at deep depths, but that's not the kind we have here. These kind of corals only grow within 300 feet of the surface of the ocean. Take a look at this diagram done for the American Journal of Science in 1946. Notice that this is a diagram, a cross-section to the second largest guyot in the Pacific. It's called Hess Guyot. Now, here's the Pacific Ocean surface today. Here's a cross-section through this underwater flat-top seamount. You'll notice it's 10 miles across the top. It's not a small piece of land here. But you'll also notice that on the top edge here and here, there are sandy beaches. Around the side here, there are dead coral reefs that only grow within 300 feet of the surface of the ocean. But today, they are approximately 5,000 feet below sea level. Well, obviously, if I only had one of these, you could make an argument. You could say, well, if you only have one of these, something might have just happened to that one location and we don't understand. And that would be a valid argument, except for this. This is a map drawn for another scientific publication in 1959. Now, here you notice we have a map of the Pacific Ocean. And in the key, or legend, it says that black dots are islands, circles are guyos, or submerged islands. You see, the word guyot is just a scientific term for submerged island. And so here are the black dots of the Hawaiian archipelago here. Here are the black dots of the islands of the South Pacific, Micronesia, Polynesia, and so on. But if you look at the map closely, you'll notice there's a circle right here. There is another one right there. But there are many in the middle and to the west, is that right? There's a whole string going from Hawaii to the Aleutian Islands right here called the Emperor Seamounts. This string is called the Emperor Seamounts. We see them here in the Gulf of Alaska, here off of California and Mexico, is that correct? So let's think. If we have known guyos known to exist, all of them approximately 1 mile underwater today, and we have them in the south, the north, the east, the west, and in the middle, doesn't that tell me that the entire ocean floor sank about 1 mile pretty much everywhere? It really does, doesn't it? So let's think. As a mile of water came out from below here, the entire Pacific Ocean floor here sank like an elevator down 1 mile. We have the double continental shelves here. It is, of course, logical. But we also have the guyos. So we have three basic proofs here. And you saw the stretch marks in the Atlantic. I wonder if you have a good eye. You might also notice that the western continental shelf of New Zealand perfectly fits the eastern continental shelf of Australia here. You can actually see a crack here, and you can actually see stretch marks right there where New Zealand moved rapidly away from Australia at the time of the flood of Noah. So here we have all this physical evidence to prove to us that, in fact, the continents used to fit together. There used to be a layer of water down below 1 mile deep. As a matter of fact, today, we now know there's between 6 and 10 times the amount of water still in the crust of the earth as on the crust of the earth. There's still 6 to 10 times the water trapped in the Earth's crust as there is on top. Now, this is water that didn't get out the first time, and that water is still coming up today through geothermal events such as volcanoes and other such things. Let's take a look at the whole Earth so you can see this as a total picture. This is a map of the entire Earth showing what is called the mid-oceanic ridge. And the mid-oceanic ridge starts at Caesarea Philippi, comes right down the Jordan River Valley, turns, comes right down the Red Sea, comes out the Gulf of Aden, turns, comes into the Indian Ocean, splits here, goes east, breaking off Antarctica from Australia, across the Pacific, up and around, finally coming back and meeting itself again. Here it goes south of Africa, right up the middle, and ends near the North Pole. Now, this physical evidence is there for anybody to see it. And let's think about what happened when God created the earth. Well, it says He created the earth with the waters above, the waters below. So the waters above are a lot of extra moisture that's not there today in the upper atmosphere. We have shallow seas on the earth, 1 mile deep in the Pacific, 1 mile deep in the Indian. There is no Atlantic. And down below the crust, the eggshell of the earth here is that layer of water, and then below that is the rest of the earth. Now let's think about what happened at the time of the flood. Remember, the earth has come like an eggshell with no cracks. But there's that layer of water down below, correct? It's that superhot water. Now, superhot water has tremendous force. Superhot water is perhaps the second most powerful source of energy in nature. As a matter of fact, I would like you to think about this. We do a presentation on Mount St. Helens, a relatively small volcano that erupted in the southwest corner of our Washington state on May the 18th of 1980. It's a relatively small volcano, but because of the superhot water coming up from below, it erupted with a force equal to a 20 megaton atomic bomb. That's what a little volcano can do. That's the equivalent of 20 million tons of TNT all going off at the same time. But it didn't stop there. It continued to erupt for another 9 hours, and in 9 hours it produced 430 megatons of energy. That's what this kind of water can do. So let's think. The Earth is created like an eggshell with no cracks. There's a lot of extra moisture in the upper atmosphere. There's shallow seas on the surface. But below the eggshell is that layer of liquid steam, that accident looking for a place to happen. Millions of cubic miles of this explosive water. And let's think, too, how could 3 continents move thousands of miles apart in only 1 year? Well, again, another very simple and easy question. Think with me for a moment. How easy is it to push a boat away from a dock if the boat is floating on water? Oh, come on, folks. Even a child could do it, correct? So it's easy to push a boat away from a dock if it's floating on water, correct? Well, let's think about what happened at the time of Noah's flood. This layer of liquid steam, that accident looking for a place to happen, the fountains of the great deep, burst forth, break open, or cleave. The waters cleave from below, breaking the eggshell up into big pieces. We call them continents, but they're really just boats. At the beginning of the flood, superhot water and molten rock knife through from below, and Pangaea begins to break apart. As molten rock is forced upward through the crack, the continents start to move sideways because they are floating on a layer of water. This process continues with increasing force, and the continents begin to slide downhill. As the water goes up, the continents move apart. More water goes up, the continents move apart. Water goes up, continents move apart. As the continents are moving sideways, molten rock comes up. As it hits the seawater, it cools, forming new ocean floor. The continents are also sinking as the water comes out from below. At the end of this process, the continents have moved apart and down, a new ocean floor has been formed, and the continents are covered by about 1 mile of water. Now, think about what happened in the Pacific at the time of the flood of Noah. We had some islands. We have shallow sea, 1 mile deep. We have water stored down below. At the time of the flood, the waters go up. When the water goes up, the boat must go down. So the ocean floor starts sinking as the water comes out from below, taking the islands down with it. At the end of the flood, we have these flat-topped underwater seamounts, called guyos, and now there's 2 miles of water there. Now, I also mentioned about volcanoes. I mentioned Mount St. Helens. that this is tremendously powerful water, this super hot water. And I mentioned that